Jody Brown. A belated welcome to Woking Football Club. You were announced as our first ever Director of Football on the 4th of December. Talk me through what the role's been like for you in the first 6 weeks of the job.
Yeah, it's been really hectic. Coming into a club in just before the Christmas period is tough for anybody in any role, as a manager, as a player, as a member of the admin staff, groundsman, or in a role like mine. It's a really busy time because fixtures are so frequent. Not a lot of time between games to take stock and come to terms with what the processes around the club are, and to get used to your environment. So that was a challenge. But we'd had a lot of preparation time because Todd had been in dialogue with the club for a long, long time about the takeover. So I'd been doing my homework and preparing myself for when it eventually happened. So we were able to come in and already have a good idea of things that were around the club, what we might need to do, and kind of be prepared. However, we could never be completely prepared for the decision to change the manager. I've been on record before of saying we liked Michael and Ben, and we saw their capabilities and their potential, and we had hoped that they would be part of this project going forward. But momentum in football is a massive thing, and unfortunately, the momentum was sort of on the downward curve, and it's really hard to change that when you've got instability above you. It's really tough. You're losing games, and it's a funny thing in football. Things just start to go against you. So sometimes you need some kind of intervention just to change that momentum. And we made the decision that we would change the manager. We had contingency plans in place, not a specific manager, but the profile of manager that we wanted. So following the Gateshead game, which wasn't great, but it's certainly not a reflection of Michael's entire tenure. I just think it was a bad day on many, many fronts. We decided that we had to put a stop to the downward momentum, really, and put an intervention in place, and hopefully encourage a change. And we moved very quickly to talk to people that fit the profile of manager that we wanted to bring in. And we were fortunate enough to be able to come to an agreement with Neil to come in, and he's come in. Me and him are very much aligned on sort of tactical principles, which is important. You can't really have a director of football that maybe wants to have a big 6'5" back four smashing it as far as they can and playing on seconds, and then have a manager that wants to play tick-attack around the penalty area. So it was important that we were aligned. That's obviously in really blunt terms, but we were pretty aligned in systems and about the principles within those systems. But obviously, ultimately that comes down to the manager. But that alignment is important. So we were impressed with Neil. We were pleased to be able to get an agreement with him, and we were really pleased to be able to bring Simon in as well, who was Neil's first choice as his assistant. Simon comes with a great background in the game as well, great experience, and just in the first however long it is, 5 or 6 weeks of working with him, his knowledge of players is excellent, and his personality and the way he is around players is excellent as well. So we're pleased with the management team. But yeah, that was a trying time in terms of getting all of that done. And then what was always on the agenda was to reshape the squad. I'm not saying it's purely down to the squad that we were losing games, but when you look at a football club, it needs to be sustainable. There wouldn't be a takeover if the club was being well run financially previously, but it wasn't. So we've had to reduce spending. But it was always our aim to be intelligent in the way we reduce the spending, and not reduce spending and cause a decrease in performance. So we're pleased that we've been able to offload certain players. And again, it's not necessarily about the player. It is about a cost-cutting exercise, bringing a bit of balance and shape to the squad, but at the same time not dismissing the importance of quality. So we feel as though, although we've kind of moved 7 or 8 out, we brought 3 or 4 in, and we think those 3 or 4 add great quality to the squad. And obviously, we're delighted with Ini Effiong and Frank Vincent both come in. They both scored and assisted. And then Aidan came on, and 5, 6, 7 minutes, whatever it was, into his debut, he scored as well. So we've seen an immediate impact from the players that we brought in, which is always makes that transition easier. and we're really pleased. But it's exactly the same with the management team. They've come in and they're now 5 unbeaten. And whilst, you know, I don't think it's lucky, it's certainly not lucky. Um, but it's not just down to some dramatic changes that they've made tactically. It's about the overall culture that we're trying to drive in the football club, and that they're driving in the football club. That we're all in it together. Everyone around the entire football club contributes to that, and we're still building that, as you well know. Um, everyone's as important as everyone else. And when we get that culture, and there's not this sort of blame culture of this wasn't done because of him, or we lost because of him, or the manager's not very good, whatever it is, we're all in it together, and the management team are driving that. And I think that's reflective in the performances. We go behind, and you still believe we can come back. Um, we enjoy it. We enjoy a lot of the ball, and you're seeing greater risks taken in possession, and that's where we want to go. And yeah, of course, it's easy sitting there now after 5 unbeaten to say it was all planned out and it's brilliant, but there is some good fortune related to all of that as well.
And what are your plans looking ahead for the club moving forward?
Yeah, looking forward, there's things that were always on the agenda. So we want to bring the academy under the same umbrella as us. At the moment, the Cardinals Trust do a great job, and I was delighted to see them make the FA Youth Cup third round, and really give a good account of themselves against Stoke, and beating Bromley in the previous round is no mean feat. So we're pleased with that. Obviously, I don't know when this video goes out, but as we're sitting here, we're playing Derby County tonight, and we've got two of the boys from the academy featuring in that, Leo Christophers and Tom Dreyer. They've trained with the squad this week, and we're excited to see them and how they sort of embed themselves in the squad, and if they get a chance to play tonight, how they perform. But we want that to become a regular occurrence that academy players are breaking into the first team training squad. We want to help support that academy. As I say, bring it under the same umbrella as the football club, and create that development pathway, get players out on loan, get them going out and playing sort of Isthmian League football, preparing themselves, getting closer and closer to the level we need for them to come into our first team. Because the ultimate goal, I think, for any football club and for football supporters is to have homegrown players. Whichever football club you support, you go in the stadium, and who's the favourite players? It's the boys that have come through the system. So we want that affiliation with the community. We want that affiliation with the club. So we're going to work hard to do that, but that's not an overnight project. That will take a bit of time, but we're starting it now. I was at the academy game last night. I watched the first year team against Met Police. Really, really impressed. 3 or 4 boys caught my eye. And as I say, we've had the 2 lads in training with us this week. They'll feature tonight, and long may that continue. And hopefully we make that relationship even better and even stronger.
And you touched on a couple of the transfers there. Is there any more information you can talk to regarding sort of ins and outs and how the squad will shape up ultimately?
Yeah, so obviously we had a lot of loan players, and the thing with loan players is you're only allowed a certain number of loan players. So first of all, you don't want all those spaces taken up in case there is an emergency situation where we need to bring someone in, and we were very close to that. But also, for those players' development, they come out on loan to develop. So we looked at the situation with like your Raheems and your Tom Leahy's, for example. Was it working for both parties? Were they getting enough football for their development? Probably not. Were they adding enough value to the squad in terms of what we might need going forward? Maybe not. Good lads, showed some great signs, but the decision was made for their development and for our development as a football club and a football team. It was probably better to send them back. Obviously, Max Dyche was the integral part of our back four. He actually got recalled, which opened up the opportunity. We had to bring in a centre back. We've just signed Jacob Mazionis from Ipswich. He's a really exciting prospect, really highly thought of at Ipswich. There was a lot of work and negotiation to get him in, because I don't think I don't think they're sort of desperate to get him out. I think he's skippering the under-23s there, and his progress has been really good. But this should be a great experience for him, and for us. He brings something to the table. We believe he comes kind of ready to feature. So, albeit it was forced on us, with Max getting recalled, we're really excited about what Jacob brings. Judgy, Alan Judge and Dion Moore, obviously their contracts were only to January the 1st. Again, you have to look at it from a football club point of view. value for money, and sustainability. We had to get the squad numbers down. Um, if they weren't up on January the 1st, the situation might be completely different, but they were up on January the 1st, and we're not really in a position to carry that number of players and pay that amount of money globally. So we wanted to bring those costs down, and a lot of the exits have been part of the process in bringing those costs down. And as I touched on in the previous question, sort of bringing Innie in. Listen, I wish we could have got Innie in 3 or 4 weeks earlier, because if we had, I think we might be having a totally different conversation. Not simply because the team's built around Innie, it's not, but he is a platform that we were probably lacking. He occupies centre backs, and he's tried and tested at scoring goals in these situations. When you're down that bottom half of the table and you need important goals, he's done it throughout his whole career. So maybe if the takeover had happened earlier and we were able to make that transfer earlier, this would be a different conversation. But actually, we're in a really, really good place. So yeah, the players we've brought in, as I said, the overall plan was to lower squad numbers but improve squad quality, and we feel as though we've done that, and we'll continue to look to do that.
Excellent. Thank you for your time, Jody. I'm sure we'll speak soon.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, mate.